It's Thursday, April 20th, 2023. I discovered this movie, 12 Strong. It is, in a reality, like a critical piece of infrastructure at the moment, like an anchor for me of sorts. Um, there's, in the beginning of the movie, there's very calculated headline piece and a definitive timeline or a definable timeline of years for which I know where my real story was prior to the star time that creates a star system happening for me in incarnate in real world. Um, so I'm watching the headlines because I was in high school when these things happened. In fact, at one point I was in Long Island, one point I was in Queens, and none of this was being taught in the high school, was not even spoken of. No auditory input was addressed that these things were happening in the same time frame. But one of the attacks um, at like a Homeland Security where I woke up on someone's front lawn with fire trucks, EMS trucks all around me, and somebody trying to revive me. That happened. Um, and I had no idea what I had been attacked by, or by whom, or who would have come after me, or for what reason. Um, that's how poor the conversation has been in this area during my life frame. So I'm watching the beginning of this movie, and it mentions some things. There's something I've heard, like, whatever floats your boat. They said that in high school, and I'm like, I don't really get it. Like, I don't understand it. But then when I watched the G.I. Jane, and then there's something Navy relatable, I'm like, oh, right, they float boats. They have funding requirements, or I don't know how that works, but that would make sense there on what's floating. And then there's the yachty crew, the yachts. I don't know if they play Yahtzee Nazi just to like get water toys. I mean, again, humans have gotten really, it looks like, out of hand. Um, and then there's this. Um, so I'm watching this with a real keen eye at the moment. And then this morning, so they sunk some boat called Cole, Cole. Oh my God, Nick. It's the last four letters in my name. And it's just chilling in itemized details. And how little information has been given to the Nick Cole in this area at the same time, who's also been personally attacked with no compensation, no like ability to like have a friendly contact in the field. Like, who can I rely on or depend on? Just one human. What one human do I have in order to get real information and address me if there's anything moving in the area that I should be concerned about? I don't even have one my entire life. That's how frightening this has become. So here, this is what they put up in some movie with Hemsworth, who also is I think his brother's part of something called Westworld, where it's, have you ever questioned the nature of your reality? Yeah, as of lately, I'm questioning it in hindsight a lot more. And in Minority Report, I wouldn't even be at this point looking backwards as to like, what did they all do while I was kept in this blind. There's a song, In the Eye of the Storm. In the Eye of the Storm, I just spoke to somebody on the Intrepid about this. I said, I'm speaking to my son, and he's asking me what the Cold War was. I don't even know how to speak to him. I was like, it's wherever I was held during the time where the Cold War was happening, it was like being in the eye of the storm. There was some headlines in the newspaper, the local newspaper, but not many. And then it's kind of like this wall of wind was going on at the adult section while we were still children. And then what was beyond that, I have no idea. But that's just how dangerous this non communicative whatever has been. These are past headlines with definitive timeline that I can't verify other than using this movie clip. Where I've had a problem with a crazy donkey and a blacksmith. This is based on a true story.
February 1993. A massive explosion ripping through the lower basement sections of the World Trade Center under Tower Number 2.
I had never even heard of it.
How horrific a crime this is.
August 1998.
Our embassies in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam were bombed. The bin Laden terrorist network was
I had never heard of it.
Suicide bombers blew a hole in the ship.
My prayers are with the families of those killed at the explosion involving the U.S. naval vessel Cole.
Cole. I had never heard of it until this movie.
September 9, 2001.
Ahmad Shah Massoud, the leader of the Northern Alliance, was assassinated by 2 members of Al-Qaeda.
Massoud's death destabilized the Northern Alliance, removing the only threat to the Taliban's power in Afghanistan.
Я сказал тогда американскому коллеге, знаешь, меня это очень тревожит. Такое чувство, что что-то должно произойти. Они явно к чему-то готовятся.
Now this morning I'm looking at something in the natural weather pattern around here. Also, my name comes up on the big board called COLE. And then it says, okay. I don't know what that means. I know that there's a town in Oklahoma called Cole. But who's signaling and who's tracking what? And how are they interpreting it or reading it at star systems? I don't know. I also this morning came up the thing about Hunter Biden's laptop. I don't know if that has something to do between the crazy donkey trying to self-preserve its party responsibility, sending in a blacksmith who has a friend who wants to use a terminal because he's staying in a room that used one of the computers. I don't know. Is that to verify that there was some whatever going on with whatever RH positive they sent in that I wanted to have nothing to do with? Again, are these like the elephant and the donkey having fights at my expense, wasting my entire biological clock? I'm just curious, because the more I look at it and the more I question it, the more real it becomes mixed in with other time frame. Then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so you're a biological clock. You on the like astrophysics plane of blank space and the Big Bang theory, where creation of life starts somewhere at some point in time and space where it actually becomes life. There's that. And then you have this gestational clock, unlike anything else, where you have shared space and time and another point, creating a parallel dimension in what normally would be, and you're an incarnate. So you have this special thing, which makes you a symmetrical, like in all of the possibility of clocks, with if they were all put, they would shift and change time and space on this machine, like all over the place in torque and torsion and like really instability. If you like filtered through all the women's cycle of clocks, I mean, even a small time frame, it would be like your eyes would hurt. Your spirit would hurt. And then there's the anchor of the one parallel dimension that has symmetry in it, for which I have. And then I'm thinking to myself, who would have kept me in some form of sheltered position with no access to real help, no access to real information, and try to study parallel dimensions and the incarnate flesh that has a biological clock system at like astrophysics superstar systems? Who might try to sell my life on that level? And then I'm watching the movies. I'm watching Donald Trump come out with something called an NFT. And I'm like, oh, is that how Hollywood used to work at communications projects? And then I'm thinking, who are these investors? How is that being used as a strategy to further hurt me in the field? Or try to circumvent some other whatever floating boats in protecting and preserving some military industrial complex I thought was there to protect me, but clearly it depends on whose clock and star systems and gender or genetics we're talking about, with everybody having alternate priorities in some entropy. So now I'm watching as this tornado hits today, or yesterday.
News this morning, and that is the latest outbreak in a deadly 2023 tornado season. A wave of severe storms hammered Oklahoma, Kansas, and Iowa last night, and people in central Oklahoma reported several tornadoes leading to severe damage. You see it on your screen now. One of them is blamed for killing 2 people in Cole, Oklahoma.
Cole, Oklahoma. And I'm thinking to myself, 2 people. And I'm thinking to myself, look at this. It looks to me like my life frame thus far, just built on some sticks and whatever, just totally demolished. That's what my life looks like. I don't have a house. I don't have a bank account. I don't have a career. I don't have a pension. The time I spent here working has been completely wiped out. I have no future. There is nothing based on how tightly the Nicolas Cage of Hollywood has held me on this side of the water, while there's some edge of tomorrow talking about alphas and omegas and a William Cage in a Heathrow that has some U.S. guy from Science Hill, Kentucky, which I know again in 4-letter patterns between a Rita and a Hella seems kind of important based on the fact that there's a Nick, real one, somewhere else, who used to answer a Blue Princess phone, only one in the kitchen. And so here's what's going on. It says CBS News investigations about whistleblower. I don't know what a whistleblower is. I don't know what whistleblower protection is. I would have no idea about these things. Being kept isolated in a series of rooms my entire life, Well, all these things, like in the eye of the storm, with all of this wind tunnel going on around me for a exorbitantly ridiculous amount of time, and being withheld from even having a quality of life. There's been no quality of life.
Federal investigation into Hunter Biden's tax returns. An attorney for an IRS supervisor is sending a letter to lawmakers today asking for whistleblower protection for his client. He's alleging the investigation is being improperly influenced by, quote, preferential treatment and politics. Our chief investigative correspondent, Jim Axelrod, is here with more. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Nate. We are learning more about this potential whistleblower, described by his attorney as a nonpartisan career civil servant who's looking for protections to share what he's experienced.
My client wants to come forward to Congress. He's ready to be questioned about what he knows and what he experienced under the proper legal protections.
Attorney Mark Lytle's client is a supervisory special agent at the IRS who's prepared to tell Congress the investigation he's been working on has been hampered by what he thinks is special treatment.
Typical steps that a law enforcement investigator would take were compromised because of political considerations.
Lytle wouldn't talk in specifics, declining to identify either his client or the target of the investigation his client helped conduct. Can you identify him?
I can't at this stage, Jim.
But CBS News has learned the investigation the whistleblower worked on is about Hunter Biden.
What we're doing is being completely cooperative.
That was Biden 2 years ago, after the DOJ opened an investigation into his finances. The FBI collected what it believed was sufficient evidence.
Like, again, through Tia Frio, at some point, there was something called a Rob Zorella's wedding that I attended with, I don't know who was on the guest list. It was a backyard wedding. I wore a brown dress and whatever. So I don't really know. Like, that small private event happened. But again, I've met a lot of people through Tia Frio where I don't know who they are. So I reference them, even though they may be one of the most important and one of the most powerful men in the USA or in North America. I would have no way of knowing. I reference them based on, it was Zorella's wedding. Blacksmith ways of explaining it was Zorella's wedding. Hell if I know. I don't know what the names of the attendees are. I have no way of even researching that at this point. Same thing with the mojito guy. He could be an ambassador from somewhere. He could be a crown prince from somewhere. I'd have no idea. He was in the back of a bar, like serving a drink, having a conversation. How would I know if he just... That's the frightening thing about having been in the eye of the storm with this isolation business going on and not enjoying any quality of life and not even having friends. I mean, like true, genuine friends. I got 2 RH positive problems and I'm RH negative. And I don't even know where there's other RH negatives that I can go to for safety.
Evidence to charge Biden with tax crimes. And last year sent its findings to the U.S. Attorney in Delaware. Since then, silence. Why can't your client talk to us directly at this point?
There are laws that provide protection to whistleblowers, and he has to navigate that.
Yesterday, Lytle sent this letter to Congress claiming his client could provide information that would contradict sworn testimony by a senior political appointee.
I have promised to ensure that he's able to.
But do, like, American people and people in the USA, like, do they get counselors and people to advise them and help them through this process? I mean, like, where do you find that level of partnership on Earth amongst humanity? Like, the real kind that actually cares whether you live another day, or the kind that's trying to throw you into an even worse situation. Like, where does that level of loyalty and humanity exist? I really have not found it.
to carry out his investigation.
CBS News has learned that was Attorney General.
Just so I update the GOD properly. I've got a group I met with on Zoom yesterday. I read through the scripture, whatever it is. And then I really feel that for them. I'm glad that I get to see them every Sunday. I am so glad there's something to break up the week. And midweek on Wednesday, I get to have a conversation with a group that actually smiles. And at least I feel, even if they're just pretending or acting, at least I feel like they could care at some point, considering I have nothing else left.
Merrick Garland, who gave testimony about the Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney in Delaware conducting the Hunter Biden investigation. Lytle says neither he nor his client are motivated by politics. Would you find any evidence or allegation of a political agenda?
No. To him, the truth is one truth, and he wants to come forward with it.
Lytle told us the whistleblower has been with the IRS for more than a decade and has extensive documentation to support his allegations.
The things he's been through are very well documented in emails and other communications with the Department of Justice.
We asked Lytle if there's a chance his client can only see his slice of the investigation and not the big picture. Lytle said that's possible, but that his client had expressed his concerns to superiors a number of times before seeking whistleblower status. Neither the IRS, Department of Justice, nor a lawyer for Hunter Biden would comment.
To be continued for sure. Thank you, Jim. Turning to the war in Ukraine,
Now, here was last week's 60 Minutes, where it's the theory, I think it's the theory of everything is what they mentioned, but it just shows star system, again, on that blank canvas. There's two people that work in this industry and field. How were they given opportunity to work in this industry and field when I'm an incarnate? I create a star system of clock, biological clock, that can be calculated at that level. But yet I have a problem because I'm not surrounded by a group or an educated facility or institution. And I've had no pathway or guidance or mentorship to get me to that level before the special child arrived, which only seems imperative that I be at that level, just because at this level, it's very difficult to even speak on it because I don't know the language that humans are even speaking at this point.
What does the origin of everything look like? That's what NASA's James Webb Space Telescope is trying to discover. We call it space because we thought there was nothing out there.
There is no empty sky with James Webb.
The telescope is sensitive to the faint light that reaches us from the dawn of time. Then this team turns data into images that look like this, and this, and this.
Who are those two people? Why do they get into that level of education and spokesperson and reality while I'm stuck in a series of rooms having to check multiple devices for movie credits, for TV show credits, and to try to figure out what's going on with humans on Earth when I know I have a very specific position at star systems. I just don't know who's selling research and development and studying of possibility of parallel clocks or parallel studies or development of biologics, of atmosphere, of climate, of all sorts of things that could be going on, which really frightens me when I sit in my quiet. and I work out and I calculate out just how sensitive the information is or could be, and then I watch a movie like 12 Strong, where they said that they sent them to some faraway nation to search for weapons of destruction, and then they came back and the end result was, in the public view or the general's audience, they claim they never found weapons of mass destruction. Really? Because I look around New York, I see automobiles, that I think that qualifies. But again, somewhere in somebody else's reality, they're in charge of saying what is or isn't. It doesn't change the fact that I've been trapped in a series of rooms without access to the same like potential as these two nobodies who are sitting up there, just two stars in the system, no idea how to find them. No, just like in humanity, no idea how to find them on a chart. I know how to find mine. I have symmetry. I'm one of the parallel dimensional clocks that exist here on Earth at the same time that there may be others floating out in the same galaxy. But I choose to say mine's been broken because I can't find the other random points of light that exist within that galaxy that I should be around and that are safe for me to be around and to talk to and to enjoy life with and have a quality of life with. And then here's this Edge of Tomorrow, which came out in 2014. It says, caught in a time loop, a soldier repeatedly relives the battle in which he died. And in this, they speak of this brain and this omega. And I don't know whose research Carter is protecting, somewhere between Rita and William's cage. But it speaks of this, and then there's this alpha system with a hierarchy or a matriarch like responsibility of these things, of these machines, in a parallel way of speaking of it. Again, I don't even know how to put it into more words than what's already been presented or given as to where are these things. Like, are these, like, is the Edge of Tomorrow considered an NFT? I don't even know what NFT, like some financial transaction where they put it out there, they make billions on it. And then what? It's just business as usual. My life, I'm just still stuck as biological clocks and star systems of the definable, discernible kind. I'm not just some random point of light in the universe or in the galaxy. There's real parallel dimension and discernibility within machines I don't even have access to, but others are studying and are developing and are able to enjoy satisfying careers within.
We're stuck here.
Here's where they bring this out.
Visions of what? Okay, so there's still time. Yes. Time. Look, I'm sorry. Who is this? Who are you?
So it references time. And he says advanced, I think, biological mechanics.
I'm Dr. Carter, particle physics, advanced microbiology.
He's also the only other person who'll believe what's happening to you. No one understands mimic biology better than him. He's a top analyst at Whitehall.
Well,
at Whitehall. Now, I don't know what that is. I don't know where that is. It seems important. Lou's been contacted by something called noetic science. I think that has an astrophysics realm of reality and whatever. And so he's learning whatever noetic science is. Is that helpful to me? I don't know. I'm grateful that somebody's actually trying to involve him in some way of educating him and seeing whatever he passes along. Great. I found some names very, very helpful to let me know that it's their reality, and their reality is very critical in my part of the universe and within my own star system. I just haven't been able to get to that level of scholared or educate ever. And I have no way of how to even find a pathway, because normally it takes money or in some kind of investment, for which I don't have.
Well, at the same time, Rita, and I'm just a mechanic with psychiatric delusions.
Carter, show him.
Yeah.
So what, does he have psychiatric delusions in the general's audience of the public persona or the public view? Because they try to discount and discredit and harm people with real work that's really working on something. It just doesn't involve some of these generals in a general's audience. I'm just curious. Because this whole mental disease thing that came out is like a real, I don't know, and to quote Jesus, like thorn in my side. What, is it too soon? Again,
Right, well, first of all, you're not fighting an army. You have to think of this as a single organism. Now, these common drones, they act like it's claws.
Alphas, like the one that you killed, are much more rare.
Yeah, they're like 1 in 6.18 million,
Yes.
by my guess.
They act as the enemy's...
They're like its central nervous system. But this is the brain. It controls them all. And this is the Omega. And the Omega has the ability to control time.
Whenever an alpha is killed, an automatic response is triggered. The Omega starts the day over again. But you see, this time, it can remember what's going to happen just like you do.
that's in linear fashion. But then there's parallel clocks and parallel particles and a whole line of science that I really don't want to be putting on whatever. But again, there are those in the field who study it. I don't know if they have psychiatric delusional diagnosis. Doesn't seem really fair to the people who actually study it. I don't know who's getting that level of opportunity to study. I don't know why. They're advancing some and not others, especially when there's mothers in the field that need to know certain things, like simple security issues, like day-to-day security issues. I live in near a huge metropolitan city that's already been attacked several times, and I only know of the one, unless I stumble upon a video made by an actor that just has come up on my radar, for lack of a better term, with symbols. It's not only Top Gun, but his movie Love and Thunder came out like really close. And of course, Chris's movie came out as Thor, God of Love and Thunder, in a 78. So of course, boom, right away. It's important as of now, because now my radar is like, where do I look and how do I ground sacred geometry and the number system that they're using, and how does it relate? So now the real headline: defamation lawsuit between Dominion Voting Fox News. How do you choose your best team members? I remember a few things from whatever at times. Doesn't always work, doesn't always connect. Again, it kind of depends on where the parallel dimensions and the parallel clocks are being pulled and who's at the helm of. I have a specific star system. It was created by my person. I built every cell in that block of time with my own cells. It has a position here on Earth. What I don't know is what on Earth and who on Earth is blocking me and that special feature from getting to where we need to be in safety and in quality of life and participation with whatever is overseeing that level of equipment, and having a line of communication with something in some reality that already knows and was trained for how their job works. In case we experience any problems, we have a direct, quiet, private chain of command. That would be nice.
News. A judge has just announced a settlement has been reached. ABC's Justin Finch is live outside of the courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware, with the latest.
In Wilmington, Delaware, the high-stakes defamation trial against Fox News Channel begins today. In Dominion's $1.6 billion defamation case against...
Who and where does this money go? I have no idea. It's somewhere on the cloud. There's no way for me to even chase a reality of who benefits. Who at Dominion is getting paid? Who at Fox News is getting paid? Is it only the lawyers that get paid? And then what happens to the rest of the money? Does it just disappear?
Against the conservative network, jurors will have to determine if Fox acted with actual malice by knowingly broadcasting false information about Dominion's voting machines or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. When
I do see, however, that the settlement amount went from 1.6 billion to 7.8. My antennas are up, and then a 7, and then a 0.5. Just so 1975 doesn't really get the whatever, because somewhere in my star system there's a 5 that's incredibly important. It's just not 1975, and that blacksmith problem I got still going on.
When Fox News host and guests claimed Dominion's machines were rigged to favor Joe Biden over Donald Trump in the 2020 presidential election. And
when I hear this sounds like an RH positive fight at some level, somewhere between blacksmith and a crazy donkey, while I'm still sitting in a room with no access to money, no access to quality of life. I don't even have access to my son on a day-to-day basis. There's some real serious problems with, like, the keep at humanity in this local area, on top of the local security of I don't know what nation has actually physically put their hands on me, put me in handcuffs, taken me to NYPD without my permission, and without even alerting me as to what's going on, and really frightening. And at other times, they've taken me out of the residence and sent me to a hospital and stuck me with needles. I've also been in public in a restaurant and got stuck with a needle in a restaurant. It served alcohol, but it was a restaurant. That was where Torres was that night, along with the Tia Friel 1975 crew. Just so we're crystal clear at sports and marketing.
And they're using a Venezuelan company as the vote counter, which is known for changing votes.
Fox News owner Rupert Murdoch allegedly sent an email saying, "Really crazy stuff and damaging." Judge Eric Davis has already ruled that Fox could not argue to jurors it was merely repeating allegations pushed by former President Trump and his allies because they were newsworthy. In another blow, today the judge authorizing a special master to investigate whether Fox News complied with its discovery obligations to Dominion's legal team. Dominion previously accused the network of withholding information to which it was entitled. Fox News blasting Dominion's suit, calling it a political crusade in search of a financial windfall.
You know what I think was really helpful back in the day? And I think had it stayed in place, I might not be experiencing this many problems. When I arrived in 1978, there was still something called a travel agency with a travel agent on staff. There was no open, like, oh, let's go to Florida for the weekend. No. You would go into the travel agent. He then had to call the booking or the travel, however his job worked or her job worked. And there was agency involved. There was screenings involved. There was a slowdown of the hustlers and the scam artists just being able to land on a seemingly innocent passenger plane. I mean, there is so much travel that's going on right now, it's frightening. And there's no more travel agent or booking agent. It goes through some, unfiltered process. I mean, it happens in a split second. How are these pilots protecting themselves and their family from human trafficking charges when they're not even using travel agents and proper federally regulated travel agency standards? Where is the regulation, the tight, restrictive regulation on travel for a reason? To protect the people who are out doing whatever they do in busy work during the day from whatever is out there trying to harm their way of life and their children's future. Just curious, how does that stand up in boardrooms of major corporations and world security? Because it doesn't seem like a safe practice or a good socially responsible practice at all. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.